Okay, so we are grabbing one more time our right foot and let's balance. Go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ouch. This is actually quite intense for the hip flexors and the quads. I'm feeling it a lot in my back leg. Okay, and for the final time, okay, do a grip and let go of the left arm. Go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, very good, guys. So now we are going to go into the oversplits, which is one of my very, very favorites and the most useful stretch in my opinion. So we have our CrossFit thingy here. So let's start with the right leg on the U. So you're standing on your knee, place the right leg on your hip and just slide away from it and try pushing down. So really just sit here. I think like 30-40 seconds will be enough here. So here it's important to try keeping your hips kind of square. It will not be really possible for you to do so, but this is like the aim, the goal. So what you can do is to just put the opposite hands on the opposite legs and keep the body straight and just sit here. It is okay, like choose the height of something that you are going to be sitting from and just stretch like this. And you can, if you want, shift the side. Instead of you guys raise up and she's like, I'm gonna stretch and does this. Feel like, no, not really. I always try warming up before I do these stretches. So I always do like the traditional split. I always position and it's a little bit warm my hips before I go into the oversplit. So guys, actually it's very important that you warm up before you do this. Okay, so let's go into the side split now. So transfer your hips to the side. Just sit like this, and this is going to be easy after the forward to front split. But now we are going to push forward and come on our forearms and stretch these muscles. Okay, so let's just push forward and sit for like 15 counts. Keep your legs straight and back straight as well. Okay, and now release. Very, very good. We are repeating the same thing on the left side now. So start on your knee. Just carefully place your leg. And now slide the knee away from yourself. And very carefully. And breathe. And put the opposite arms. Get back straight. Breathe in and breathe out. So how have you guys been doing? What's new? Let me know in the comments. I would love to hear from you. So, okay, let's try bending back a little bit. Just a little bit, just very gently. Okay, how are you doing, Sonia? Okay, so let's transfer our hips to the side split. Sit here and then transfer the weight forward onto our forearms. And stretch like this. Yes. So I really love my social media on in this position because it doesn't require. During my warm-up, I always do the elbow splits to.
Ideally, next to where your right hand is, you should feel a deep stretch in your groin muscles of the front leg and the hip flexors of your back leg as you do this. Next, keep your right hand, place it on your knee, and push your knee out and back and then forward and back as you can, just to loosen up the hips and the ankles a little bit more. Then, to deepen the stretch even more, in the second part of the stretch, you'll try to drop your right elbow as far towards the ground as you can while rotating your upper body down towards the ground. As you do this, try to keep your right knee pushed out rather than letting it collapse inwards. And then for part 3, to really open up the mid and upper back, rotate your entire upper body up and to the right and reach your right arm as far overhead as you can. If you can, try to keep your back leg as straight as possible as you do so. Then you're going to reach back down and repeat this for 5 reps or about 30 seconds in total before switching to the next side. Now this is quite a difficult stretch. To make it easier, you can keep your leg bent, keep your knee on the ground, and work towards straightening it more and more over time. In the beginning, also don't be discouraged if you can only reach so far here and there. Just stay consistent with it, it's going to improve very quickly. Finally, here's a snapshot of each part of the stretch for your reference. Next, we're going to do what I'll just call the Asian squat, so with a few modifications to really open up the hips and ankles. First, you're going to want to get a rolled up towel and place your heels on. From here, using the squat stance, which is typically just outside shoulder width, squat down into however deep is comfortable for you. Keep your chest up and try to keep your heels down. If your heels do come up, you can roll up the towel to make it thicker. Otherwise, that's fine to keep your heels up if you have to. From here, place your arms on the inside of your legs and use your elbows to push your knees out. You want to sit in this position for 30 seconds. As you do so, you should feel a deep stretch in your groin and in the muscles around your ankles. And if you're in a rush to get to work, you can always have breakfast while you're at it. Then, for the next 30 seconds, move side to side, deepen the stretch of each ankle one at a time. As you do this though, you want to avoid collapsing your knees in and avoid pointing your feet too far outwards, as this takes the stretch away from the ankles. Instead, try to keep your feet angled out at a max of about 30 to 45 degrees and keep each knee in line with the outside of your toes. Now, there's a couple ways that we can go about progressing this. In the beginning, if you struggle with ankle mobility, you may need quite a bit of heel elevation to comfortably get down into a deep squat. Over time though, try to use less and less heel elevation and see if you can eventually get to using no elevation at all. Then, at the bottom position to open up the hips even more, you'll first just push your knees out with your arms straight ahead. Once that gets easy, try to place your hands together into a prayer position. Once that gets easy, place your hands together into a fist. Each progression is going to open up your hips more and more by spreading out the distance between your elbows. And finally, here is a snapshot of each part of the stretch for you to screenshot. Alright, so next we're going to really focus on mobilizing the upper back with rotation and opening up the chest. Get into a half kneeling position with your right leg bent as close to the wall as you can get, and your left leg planted forward in a lunge position. You're going to place both arms directly in front of you with your right arm making contact with the wall. From here, push your right hand into the wall as you rotate your upper body to the left, trying to reach your left arm to the other side of the wall. As you do this, you want to avoid rotating your hips and try to rotate only the upper body. Return back to the starting position and then repeat this for 30 seconds before switching sides. To make it easier when starting out, try moving your planted leg further away from the wall and just try to rotate as far as you can without rotating your hips. As this improves, try to move your leg closer and closer to the wall and rotate further and further. Then, once you get that down, you progress it even further to really open up your chest and shoulders by sliding your hand against the wall as if you were drawing a half moon. And here's a snapshot of each part for your screenshot. Okay, so now that we've loosened up your upper back, we will now temporarily have the mobility we need to be able to better activate and strengthen some of the smaller, weakened muscles in the back. Strengthening these muscles will help you maintain the mobility improvement long term. And the exercise we'll use to hit these muscles are wall slides. To perform it, stand with your back against the wall and contract your abs to flatten your lower back. Then slide your arms up and down the wall. To make this easier when starting out, place your feet further away from the wall, and then over time, try to get your feet closer and closer to the wall while trying your best to flat. When done properly, you should feel a few muscles in your mid-back really light up as you raise your arms up. If you can't initially keep your arms in contact with the wall all the way through, or you just can't slide your arms up very high at all, that's all perfectly fine. Just focus on improving this over time. Here's a snapshot of each part of your record. Alright, so here is the full 5-minute routine. Each exercise will take you just about a minute to do. But within that minute, I want you to focus on doing as many high-quality reps as you can. And just for your convenience, I've created a completely free downloadable PDF that contains the full routine, step-by-step tutorials for each exercise, and instructions on how to use this routine for the best results. To download it, just head on over to buildwithscience.com/dailystretch, and I'll send it right over to you. Implement this daily, make an effort to move more, and supplement this with exercises in the gym like split squats and overhead presses that help you actually use your new mobility, and you'll very quickly notice a massive improvement in how you move and how you feel. And for a step-by-step program that takes a holistic, science-based approach to transforming your body by focusing not just on your workouts, but also on your nutrition, your mobility, and your recovery, just head on over to buildscience.com and take our analysis quiz to discover which of our programs are best for you and your specific body. That's it for today, guys. Please don't forget to show your support by giving the video a like, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment down below as to what you'd like to see me cover next. If you haven't already, give me a follow on Instagram to check out some more of my content. Thank you so much, guys, and see you next time.
If you're feeling out of breath, slow down. You are probably going up. There's probably something wrong with how you're attacking your workout. If you've been running and exercising, and no matter what you do, you're constantly feeling out of breath. Well, number one, you're not alone. And number two, this video is for you. Now, number three, you may have heard the advice given by a lot of coaches and trainers out there, and even your friends, hey, if you're feeling out of breath, slow down. You are probably going out too fast. There's probably something wrong with how you're attacking your workouts. And for some, that does make a little bit of easing into things, does help. But I'm willing to bet that there's a lot of you out there who are following that advice and still feeling out of breath, still getting discouraged, still thinking that, hey, this whole running thing may not be for you. Well, I'm telling you, that's not the case at all. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what's going on with your breathing and some simple ways that we can fix it and start making real progress. Here we go.
Yeah. First, let's review what happens when we breathe. We breathe in oxygen and we exhale carbon dioxide as we go through. That is that gas exchange that is vital for not only running and exercising, but for sticking around on this planet a little bit longer. Now, let's do a quick experiment, and I'm going to show you later on in this video the significance of this. I just want you to hold your breath for a second. Now, you may notice at first, like, oh, I'm fine, but then you're going to notice that slight tinge of something building up. It is not actually lack of oxygen in that moment that is triggering you to breathe. It's actually the buildup of carbon dioxide in the body that is triggering that breath. And that is the whole key thing that we are going to talk about in this video, this relationship and balance between oxygen and carbon dioxide in our body. And when those levels get off or skewed for extended periods of time, how that affects our breathing and our ability to. Now, you first might be thinking somewhat logically that, hey, if I'm out of breath, I should breathe in more oxygen. I should try to cram as much air as I can down my gullet because that's going to help things out. And of course, when we're going really, really hard, an increase in oxygen is going to be important. But the biggest culprit in our feeling of breathlessness is not lack of oxygen, but a lack of carbon dioxide in the system. And to understand this, we got to revisit a little bit of chemistry. See, hemoglobin is a protein in your red blood cells that binds to oxygen and helps to deliver it around your body. And for that oxygen to get unbound from hemoglobin so that it can actually be available to your working muscles, to your lungs, to your heart, to your brain, there needs to be a chemical reaction that drives the pH of our blood slightly down, and that's where carbon dioxide comes in. As carbon dioxide builds up in our bodies, it makes our blood slightly more acidic. And because our body likes to stay in stasis, that triggers the hemoglobin to release the oxygen, to then balance the pH back, and then also to get that much needed oxygen fuel to our body. So the problem is this: if our carbon dioxide levels, our CO2 levels, are too low and are chronically too low all the time, our blood pH never drops, which means that hemoglobin never releases that oxygen, which means that you're working really, really hard, and yet you don't have access to the oxygen that you need to literally fuel those efforts. And you might start to feel like you're coughing, you're wheezing, you could be lightheaded or dizzy. An extreme example of this is when we hyperventilate. We know that if we slow our breathing down, that helps. What we're doing when we slow our breathing down is we're not increasing oxygen, we're actually letting carbon dioxide build back up. But the next thing we need to talk about is, hey, why are CO2 levels low in the first place? And why is it low for others? Why is it low for some, but not for others? That's why we get into the problem with over-breathing. Okay, so you remember the little breath hold test we did in the beginning of the video? Well, that's a preview of what we are about to do in a second, which is going to be a breath hold test, which is actually a great predictor of our tolerance for carbon dioxide, how much our breathing volume is, and our ability to perform and to run without feeling breathless all the time. And it's this main ingredient and thing that we're going to pull on, because remember, as human beings, we can adapt in positive and negative ways to a lot of different situations. And naturally, when we breathe at normal, healthy levels, we adapt to a normal, healthy amount of CO2 that builds up in our body, which is key for that whole gas exchange chemical reaction we just talked about. But if we're someone who goes through the test in inhale, exhale, 2, 1. That was a challenge. I may have pushed it a little bit too far. And my camera, you guys inspired me, but I'd say I probably got that initial surge around 20 seconds. I was able to hold it a little bit longer. And we want to see how you all did in the test. Now, this is very personal to you, and this has little to do with actually how talented of a runner you are. In fact, there's a lot of really talented athletes that don't do as well on this test. But here's the deal with results. The normal adult, according to Patrick McCown's work, his extensive studies researching this, is that the normal adult who exercises moderately should be able to do a 20-second breath hold before that hunger for air is the word he likes to use. The goal for athletes of all levels is to get to double that. We should be able to comfortably hold our breath, tolerate that CO2 buildup for 40 full seconds before we really feel that need to breathe. Now, if you're someone like myself, when I first did this test a couple weeks ago, I was someone that was like maybe 23 to 25, which was surprising because I thought, hey, I'm running all the time. I'm pretty fit in my running right now. I had no idea that I was so low. But over the last couple weeks, I've built it up to, as you can see now, just over 30. He really says every 5-second increase you make, big increase in energy and performance all the way around. Like if you're that person who's below 20, who's at 15 or even closer to 10, this is the big red flag. This is the missing ingredient in your running, where it's not just about how to slow down or to moderate your pace all the time. It's just that we need to adjust your breathing on a day-to-day level to make you that better, stronger, more comfortable runner and athlete. So now we have these test results. What do we do with them? That's what we're going to talk about.
So now we got homework. We gotta improve our Volt score. I myself am trying to get mine closer up to 35 and to 40. Wherever you are, we know we always have room to improve, regardless if you're a beginner or even more of an elite athlete. This is really important stuff. And we're going to do that because we want to gradually decrease our breathing volume and increase our CO2 tolerance. And I know it seems weird at first. How does decreasing oxygen levels help me out? Well, just as we mentioned about the whole chemistry lesson and gas exchange, it really is the key missing ingredient. The way we're going to do that is in kind of three phases. One is going to be how we breathe when we sleep, how we breathe day to day, and gradually how do we breathe in our exercise.